when I got this lathe, it didn't come with any change gears, or I guess proper terminology would be transposing gears for doing the metric threads. Yeah, we looked everywhere. The original owner was deceased, and we looked everywhere in the shop and in the house, and we couldn't find him. So I'm sure the lathe came with them originally. What happened, I don't know. So for normal imperial inch threads, you normally don't have to do anything as far as the change gears. You got 40 different threads it'll cut, and it has a 40 tooth for the drive sheave, and a 40 tooth for the driven, with an 80 in the center as the idler. There's probably some other combos for odd inch threads, but you know, most of the time you don't have to do anything. Now let's take a look at the metric ones. Alright, so here's the chart for all the different metric thread pitches, and it gets a little confusing. So these are your settings for your gearbox, and then over here are the transposing gears that you need to use, and I didn't get any of these, so I want to get these set up so that if I ever have the need, I'll have them. Alright, so the good thing is the driven gear, which is the bottom gear here in this position, they're all 60 tooth, so you only need one of those. But then all these others, you got a 25, a 26, a 43, 46, and a 47 tooth. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get set up with these gears. Alright, so I've had these for a couple of years now. So this is what I ended up doing, and I just haven't gotten around to finishing it. So, I mean, they're just standard metric gears. They're a 1.5 module. So, I believe it was eBay. Just started poking around on eBay, and I got all the sizes.
These averaged about $17 each. I think they're about 4 times that these days.
You can't specify the bore. They come with whatever they are. These are 12 millimeter. I think this one's a 10, and this one's a little bit smaller, probably an 8. So I got to bore them out. They've all been induction hardened as far as the teeth. You can see the pattern. So hopefully the center, which it looks like it is still machinable. Teeth are obviously hard. So I think I'm going to make a hub first. I got some material here. We'll make a hub, and I'll put a little spigot on the end so that it indexes with the existing center hole, and then I'll probably just do like a 4 screw pattern and just screw the hub on. I think that's probably the easiest way to go. Thought about welding it, but I don't want to take the chance of putting any distortion. Although these are pretty thick, I don't think it would distort, but it's just as easy just to drill them, tap them, and do it that way. All right, I'm gonna leave 2000s and we'll do a test fit. Okay. I think I'm just going to use a file and we'll fit it that way. I'm going to put a little release down there in that shoulder. I want this to fit flat into that gear. Do a little undercut. That should do it. Didn't take much. Okay. That's a really nice close fit. Let me break this edge. I should have filmed cutting this off with the newly modified bandsaw. Tell you what, for a cheap saw, it really cuts square and nice. I'm having a little OCD incident here. I was hoping I could find another 6mm grub screw to use in our new hub. That way everything would be the same. You could use the same hex key when you're switching gears. And I do have some metric grub screws, but not in a 6mm. So, and the other thing is, with a 5mm key, that's really close to being too big. Alright, so knowing that, the closest I found is a 1/4-20. And this one is a pointed one. It's a little bigger than the 6mm, but because it's pointed, I think we're going to be okay. It'll still work with the 5mm key. So that's what I'm going to go with. And I'm going to put the, go ahead and drill and tap for our set screw now while we've got the hub off. It'll be a lot easier to get to it. Alright, we are centered up in both X and Y. Time to drill and tap. Give it a little chamfer. Let's slow her down first. Well, I don't know if this is going to power tap. This chuck is not holding that good anymore. We will try it. Plenty of oil on there. While you guys weren't looking, I went ahead and got this set up. So we've got our hub pressed into the gear. It's just a very light. I mean, I could almost pushed it in without the press. And I put a bolt and a nut on the bottom. I got that bolted together so it'll stay put. And the next thing we want to do is put in a 4-hole pattern. I've got this turned to a 45-degree offset for our set screw, which will line up with our keyway when we get to that point. All right, so first thing we got to do is find center. So let's get going. We've set our zero center location, zeroed out X and Y, and let's do our hole pattern. Drawing number 1 is fine. We don't need to name it. Okay, X, Y. All right, here we go. Diameter. We're going to go with 1.25. Equal spacing. Start angle 0 is good. Number of holes, we're going to go with 4. Okay, there we go. I think we'll start over here. Or there. All right, we're lined up on the first hole. Let's just do a little center mark here. Number 21 tap drill. For 832. Okay, so that's the tap size hole. Now this is the clearance hole. So for the clearance hole, number 10 drill bit. Making sure I'm running that all the way to the back of the chuck in case it slips. Alright, so what I've got to do is determine how far down. Okay, so I set my stop there and then I added about 60 thousandths. So if we come off the gear, there's our little extra add. So it'll just mark the top of the gear with the clearance size. Okay. All right, we're ready to drill these. Now we've got to put in a counter bore. I'm going to have to drop the table a bit. All right, I've got my depth stop set, but I set it a little shallow. We're going to do a couple trial cuts here until we get it set correctly. A little bit of oil. Okay, that's the depth stop. Let's see, I got the drill or the counter bore bottomed all the way up into the chuck, so we can repeat that. That looks pretty good. Of course, we got to tap the bottom still. I'm going to give it just a smidge more. I think that's going to be good. Just going to put a little chamfer on all these now. I had to readjust the depth stop, otherwise we're going to have a crash. All right, we're good to go. I think we're through. Oh yeah. Okay, I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous about this part. So I put our big Jacobs chuck in. This is a 15-30 seconds drill bit. So I'm going to open this up. I got to open this bore up to 3/4. So I'm going to start with this drill, and then I'm going to switch over to this is a 3/4 end mill, but it's a regrind, so it's about 10 thou under, which should work out good for our 3/4 reamer. And hopefully the end mill will keep things on center. We're worried about the drill bit wandering since we're going to have an interruption with the set screw hole. Yeah, it's fighting me a little bit where that set screw hole goes through. Alright, well, so far so good. Okay, I got the slot drill in a collet, and I've increased our speed a little bit. Well, here goes nothing. That's not very sharp. All right, let's try something else. All right, I flipped this around. So I looked at that under the magnifying glass. It's ground nice and sharp, but the rake angle is flat. So maybe somebody ground it for doing brass or something. All right, let's see if this side's any better. That's more like it. Okay. I think what I'll do, I'm going to edge find the the bore. We're still lined up with our original edge finding on the hub, just to see how we did. Okay, I just did some careful edge finding and established our bore, and I've got that in the increment mode. And our old reading on the outer hub was an absolute. So we're within 1,000th. I think that's going to be good. Yeah, I mean, just reading the edge finder, I think it could be off by that much. So yeah, I'm going to call it good. Well, that's looking good. We still have to put the keyway in when our broach shows up. It should be here in a day or two. Meanwhile, I can work on getting these bored out. Well, I can only get them rough bored because I have a reamer coming for these as well. All right, Amazon came bearing gifts. This is an AccuSize 16mm reamer. Looks pretty nice. It was like $25. They had some that were, I mean, literally like $8. I mean, everything's from China, of course, but this one looks really nice. I think it was worth the extra money. So, 16mm. We got to open all these other ones up to 16mm on the bore size. I got a 5/8 drill bit, which is just under 16mm. All right, we're clamped down, we're centered up, and here we go with our 5/8 drill bit. If we go the right way, here we go. Well, I don't know about this drill bit. Either that or this is harder than it looks. All right. Let me check this drill bit. It looked like it was sharp. In fact, it looked like it was new. Yeah, it's got a funny grind on it. I guess I should have looked a little closer. It's actually got a negative grind. So I don't know where I got this drill bit, but somebody must have been using it for plastic. Let's see how it looks. More like it. All right, so I've got these all opened up and reamed to size. So then, mail time, eBay to the rescue. So I was able to find a 5mm broach, and that's a genuine Dumont. The only negative is these metric broaches. They're a B1 thickness. And of course all my bushings are just regular B for imperial. So I'm going to have to make a couple of bushings, one for each size. And I've also got to make a shim. Yeah, because this didn't come with the shim, but that part's pretty easy. All right, well, let's go see if we can make a bushing. .931. Alright, this should be the finished pass. I just took a measurement. Okay. 749, that's 1 thou under. That should be good because we need a little bit of clearance. Okay, I like that. I'm going to put a little undercut right underneath the flange there. Yeah, I know. I need to make some decent bridge clamps. That'll be the next project. These will work for now, though. All right, let me find center, and then we'll switch to the end mill, and we'll put the slot in there. I got to move you guys over here. All right, so this is the starting end of our broach. 337. So I think we'll go a little short and then we'll check it. Zero out our Z. Okay, X doesn't matter. Alright, so let's start. We got to get through that collar also, or flange. So let's just take 20 thou for our first cut. This should be the last pass for depth, but boy, this cutter's about had it. I didn't want to change cutters and lose my settings. I'm giving it as much oil as I can. Okay, let me see if I can do this with one hand. Alright, so if we go this way, we're not down far enough, okay? Even though we're at our number. You guys see that? There you go. But if I flip this over, there we go, we're not bad. So what's happened is we burned the edges off this cutter, and we've got quite a radius down in the corners. So I'm going to switch cutters and just give it a cleanup pass and see how it is after that. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely not sitting all the way down. Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to grab a needle file, see if I can clean up that bottom corner a little bit. Try it again. Yeah, all it needs is some filing. Or I might even be able to take a broach and clean it out a little bit. So I'm going to take this out of here, I'm going to cut it off, and then do a little bit of file work, and I think we'll be good. Well, I would have bet money that this was just a piece of hot rolled mild steel, but I took it over to the bandsaw. Holy smokes, it was getting nowhere. I'm going to do a file check. That kind of explains why I was having some trouble. Man, oh man. It'll bite a little bit, but that's hard. Holy crap. So I don't know what this is. This is some quality steel. It's pretty hard. Alright, so I did a bunch of hand work. We got this fitting really nice now. Just the way it's supposed to. So next step will be to go ahead and, oh, I got to make another one for the other sizes, but yeah, that's going to work good. Okay guys, it's been a couple days. Yeah, went up to the mountains to my buddy's cabin for a day. Went to grandson's hockey game. Went fishing another day. So back at it now. Okay, so mail time. McMaster car. Yeah, I started to make these shims, and well, cutting thick shim stock is not easy. Plus, I didn't have the right thickness. So McMaster car to the rescue. These are like $5 each. Not even worth screwing around, right? So I got both shims. One's for 4mm broach, one's for 5. They're different thicknesses, so we got a couple options there. And then I don't know what happened, but somehow when I was doing the checkout, I looked in my cart and I was getting ready to pay, and the other bushing that we needed for the other gears just happened to be in the cart. I don't know how that happened. But anyways, there we go. If I can get it in there straight. There we go. All right, so we got the other 16mm broach bushing, and looks like a good fit. All right, so let's get all these broached out. I'll meet you over at the press. And I've lined up with our set screw location. And of course it just moved. Let's line her back up. Alright, that looks pretty good. Let's give her some oil. One last double check. Always back off and reset as you're going through, in case you're getting any sideways pressure on the broach. Do it one more time. Okay. Alrighty. Alright, we'll put in our bushing. Make sure we got plenty of oil. Okay. Already wiped that off. Okay, so now we got to see if we're deep enough. Alright, so I removed the banjo and the idler gear and did a little cleanup here on the lathe. So let's go ahead and try this. There's a look at our completed keyway. I did a little bit of deburring just with a little needle file. Okay, let's see how she fits. I didn't measure the depth. Okay. Well, that feels pretty good. We got clearance for the key. I'm going to call that a win. Alright, so one confession here. When I measured this shaft, I did it fairly quick and I just used calipers, and I said it was a 3/4 inch, but it's actually a 19 millimeter. The difference between 19 millimeter and 3/4 inch is only 2/1000ths. So yeah, we still have a good fit, so that should be fine. All right, well, let's do all the other ones now. There's a look at the keyway, and let's go ahead and try it. Nice. That is a really nice fit. Okay, I like it. Now, one thing that I do have to do is make a new hold down washer. So here's the old one, and we don't even reach. So I'm going to have to make a kind of a counter bore type offset washer that will go in there and retain that gear. Okay, so we got all our gears broached, and I've test fitted all of them. They all fit nicely. The other two gears are over on the lathe already. So the original gears, this is the original drive gear, they're a lot thinner. So while you guys weren't looking, I made this little step washer. So originally they just had a flat washer with the hold down screw. So got a little counter bore in there so that we'll have enough depth of thread. Okay, I guess it's time to try it. I was a little worried about the size of this idler gear. So I put our largest drive gear on, and I did have enough adjustment that everything fits up nicely. And let's go ahead and run it. We're looking good there. The induction harden line is not centralized, but the gear is running true. Yeah, no problem. We have plenty of adjustment for the smallest drive gear. And let's see how she runs. All right, I like it. Well, this ought to be interesting. So this is going to be my first ever metric thread. I'm going to do a M12 by 1.75. I've already prepared a piece of stock. I don't have any metric bar stock, so I had to turn that down to 12 millimeter. And I put a thread relief. I wasn't going to do a thread relief, but I don't want to take any chances. Okay, so this lathe does not have a foot brake. So that makes it a little more challenging because you have to leave the half nut engaged. I did a test to see how far it travels once I kill the power. It travels quite a bit, so I'm not going to do it that way. Well, I'm going to leave the half nut engaged, but I'm going to disengage it at the end of the cut. And from what I've learned, as long as you when you back out and go to reverse, as long as you re-engage on the exact same number and you don't let the threading dial make more than a single revolution, it should work. So we'll see. All right, And I've got a indicator set up here for our total depth. I'll probably be feeding with the compound, so I got that set up old school. We've still got the DRO, but of course it's only on the cross slide, not the compound. All right, let me, oh, and yeah, we put the correct transposing change gear in, and we've got our tumblers set correctly for 1.75. So let's go ahead and do a scratch pass. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna run it fairly slow. Touch off. Okay, verify. We have 0 set everywhere. Okay. Now let's start with a scratch pass. 5 thou. Okay, let's see if we're in the ballpark. That looks pretty good. Nice. Okay, let's reset. Okay, I think I got the half nut backward plugs. All right, we're gonna yeah, that's scary. It goes quite a bit.
Feedback in. Back to 0. Let's take, I'm going to go 15.
All right, well that was a fail. Where did we go wrong? All right, let's just start over. All right, we're gonna try it again. So I shortened up our workpiece and returned it. We did lose a little bit of concentricity because I had to move it in the chuck, but we're just gonna go with it. I did have to turn the cutter around to get a fresh edge because we did chip the cutter and all that mayhem. I'm going to run it really slow. I'm going to leave the half nut engaged this time. We'll just do the coast down method. Yeah, this is where a foot brake would really be handy. Okay, so half nut's going to stay engaged this time. Okay, back her up, back out, back up. gotta be careful. I don't have a lot of room there. I don't want to crash into the tailstock or the center. Well, let's take another 10. Would have liked to run that back a little farther, but I think we've got enough, just enough that it'll take the backlash out. I think that's good. Let me clean it up a little bit. All right, I cleaned it up. I just hit it lightly with the file and some Scotch-Brite. So we actually got a pretty decent fit. Could be just a smidge tighter, but for the first time, well, maybe the second time. First time was a complete fail, doing a metric thread with the half nut engaged. Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. I'm going to have to do some practicing. I might even see if I can figure out how to do it in the reverse direction. That might be a better option, but at least the change gears worked, at least for this thread pitch it works. So that's a success. Well, that one wasn't so good. Into the box of shame. So I guess we're supposed to show some wildlife photos at the end of our video. So I got a few things from up at my buddy's cabin, so I'll throw those up for you guys. All right. Thanks, guys. It's okay, buddy. Sorry we woke you up. Yeah, you're a big one. Yeah. It's all right. We like bats. You guys do a good job of getting rid of the bugs. Yeah. Want a little close-up? Yeah, look at those fangs. Yeah. He was in the garage. Hey, he's a big one. Hey, little buddy.